I've been really looking forward to talking to you because you kind of have an untraditional way of being an indie game developer, and you've definitely taken a big risk, sort of taking the leap of faith in going full-time indie.
Yeah, so I went to school for accounting originally, and I realized about a year and a half in that was not what I wanted to do with my life, so I dropped out. And as I was figuring out what to do, my roommate in college, we were playing World of Warcraft, and he was a programmer, and he wrote a script to automate playing World of Warcraft, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I went to school for programming after that, and pretty much the first day I learned how to write a single line of code, I was like, okay, I'm figuring out how to make games with this. I started dabbling with 2D iPhone, Android games, but I never really released anything. I actually finished a game, but I just was not confident enough to release it. So I had the code side of things down, but the hard part was the artwork. So when I was doing 2D stuff, I was kind of just downloading sprite sheets and stuff. I couldn't really make it myself. And then at some point I started learning Blender and modeling, and for some reason that clicks. I'm much more proficient with 3D than I am with 2D in terms of creating artwork. And yeah, it's just kind of been a long journey going from 2D to 3D, and it's been 12 years of dabbling and hopefully finally releasing a game for the first time this year.
So you've jumped in, you've quit your job, the indie game industry is volatile, and you're using your savings.
Yeah.
Do you recommend this?
No, I absolutely do not recommend this.
No! God, please, no!
Honestly, I think I probably jumped into this at the worst possible time. Not necessarily for me, but just for what's going on in the world. I went full time in August of last year, which isn't that long ago. But since then, generative AI has blown up. The layoffs in the game industry has blown up. You can't go a day without seeing another 1,000 developers laid off. Studios shutting down. So it was kind of a horrible time for this. And I'm sure the people making these really decisions to lay people off and whatever know a lot more than I do. So they know where the market's going, all this kind of stuff. Really awful time to jump in and kind of take this risk. But I never thought it was going to be easy, and I never thought it was going to be risk-free. The reason I made the decision was really not a prudent financial decision. It was more just about, I've been working at the time about 3.5 years. I'd been working on the game, coming up on 4 years now, and working full-time and doing this on the side. It was just I'm never going to finish this if I don't get some of that time back. My kind of day job was at a point where it was just kind of made sense to take a switch. I couldn't really imagine starting another job and actually starting on a positive note while also working towards all these deadlines for the game. So I was you know what, I'm gonna give myself about a year, and I'm gonna get this game done, and then we'll see if the game does well and it's enough to fund another game, so be it. Then I get to be a full-time game dev and continue this kind of journey. If it comes out and it flops, then I'll have to just go back to being a software developer. So definitely don't follow my footsteps. It was not a smart decision, at least financially. But I've loved every day of it. So if you're privileged enough to have the savings to fall back on, and you can afford to have a miss if it doesn't come out, it's the best job in the world. And I figure this just gives me a better chance to potentially get to do it full time than if I kind of have that cozy job to fall back on all the time.
So you're just in this position where you're look, it's now or never. Dude, I don't think you're taking it's really not that risky of a decision when you think about it. It's it's going to be a year of your life, and you're just going to go for it and make it happen. I think it's really cool. First off, what are you carrying currently when it comes to the game's creation? What are the various talents that you have to cover?
So many things. That sounds egotistical, but there's just so much stuff to do. So all the development, so I write every line of code. There hasn't been a single line of code that wasn't written by me. All the shaders are hand-authored by me.
C# and Unity, right?
C# and Unity, yep. And HLSL for the shaders. All the artwork, there's assets as well, but all the textures and everything are at least, at the bare minimum, all the textures are redone. The story, the writing, the directing, the voice acting, directing the composer, directing everyone who's working on it, which I think people kind of underestimate how much work that is as well. Just because you have people working for you doesn't mean that you're going to be as productive as you were before. There is time spent kind of directing these things, preparing, whether it's sending videos over to chat over or whatever. There's time spent on that. A lot of the animation, not all of it, but I still do, because it's something I want to get better at, so it's something I do where it seems appropriate for me to do it. And all the level design, all the managing playtesting, all that kind of stuff. So there's a ton of things that you have to do, and you kind of just pick them up as you go.
Do you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, I love it. I get bored super easily. The only thing I don't get bored of is writing code. I absolutely love digging into technical challenges. But other than that, I get bored pretty easy, so I love being able to kind of shift focus every day. So it's, every Saturday my voice actor comes over and we run through a whole bunch of stuff, so there's a lot of writing involved with that, directing, sound editing, all that kind of stuff, and that kind of breaks up my week nicely.
Why don't you go and explore a bit, and I'll get the canoes out, all right?
YouTube's another one where I can go every few weeks, just kind of focus on the game, and then when things are starting to kind of feeling a little bit tired, I can shift focus and kind of go on some YouTube stuff for a bit. That's probably my favorite part of game development, is just being able to jump around and how all these different disciplines that you're kind of always learning and improving in.
I just wanted to shift gears here and let's kind of I wanted to sort of get you to discuss the process of making this game, like the technical side and also how you put your schedule together. Because a lot of people listening are probably wondering how they can make a game. A lot of people don't even know how to make a game at all. Yeah. And they really want to get somebody who's doing it to sort of tell them the roadmap, because there's thousands of tutorials on YouTube about how to do it. What's your process? From start to finish with this game, what's it been?
Yeah, so I mean, this game started as like a silly little game jam game for a weekend, and it kind of just spiraled out of control from there. But in terms of tools and whatnot, so I'm using Unity. I don't think that necessarily matters. Just pick an engine and start mastering it, because it's going to take some time to be productive in that engine, and I think that's more valuable than chasing, you know, the latest trend or the latest tech. In terms of like schedule and whatnot, so I'm a morning person, and fortuitously my wife's a baker, which means she gets up early. So we get up at like 4 a.m. and that gives me tons of time to start working before, you know, the day job started. So by the time I started my day job at like 9 o'clock, it's already 4 hours of work in. And I find for me personally, like I'm just not going to get anything done after work. So it's really important to like kind of prioritize that time prior to work and just make sure I'm getting things done, kind of prioritizing myself over the day job. Now that I'm full-time on the game, I'm still getting up at 4 a.m. every day, and I'm working till like 5 p.m. most days, just because I'm kind of like doing a bit of crunch trying to get this thing done. So it's like 13 hours most days. So that's been a bit of a grind. And I kind of follow, there's a great talk by David Whaley, who I know you've had on this podcast. There's a great talk by him about no 0% days. It's something I've followed kind of religiously since the start of this project.
What do you mean specifically by a 0% day?
A 0% day would be like you didn't do anything. You didn't work on the game, you didn't do any marketing, you didn't do anything at all. Maybe just like sat around, played video games, or went out with friends or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the idea is to just make sure you're getting something done. So on the days where you just absolutely do not feel like doing anything, I like to have like a bunch of tickets kind of in my backlog, or little tasks in my backlog that are like 5-minute things, like change the color of something. And I'll kind of intentionally leave these things for myself, because I find once you cross one thing off, it kind of becomes contagious and you kind of like build momentum from there. And over time, that stuff just adds up, right? Like there's a million 5-minute jobs in game development. So yeah, even getting a few of those done is always a big help.
By the way, if you want to go deeper into all of this, I have a ton of free workshops for you in the description. I've got a free workshop about how to make 100K with just a demo, and yes, I've actually done this 3 different times. How to get a publisher for your game, or even my course about the handful of ways to make money as an indie. You can check them all out below. They're my treat to you, all free. I just want to see you succeed.